Welcome to JP. Welcome to JP.
JP's. JP's.
JP's. JP's.
Welcome to JP's TV.
JP's TV, believe it or don't.
What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to JP TV show. Believe it or don't. Hey, man, I know you see the topic. And before we get into it, believe it or don't, but the civil rights has destroyed black economics and black families in America. And these people that I have up here, some of your famous black leaders. You got Jesse, Martin Luther King, Al Sharpton, and others. During that time, 1963 through 69, you had Lyndon B. Johnson, which is this white man, right here as the president during that time. And he was actually initiated the Civil Rights Act. All right. After the 1964 election, Johnson passed even more sweeping reforms. Social Security amendments in 1965 created two governments, run health care programs, Medicare and Medicaid. So he also implemented the Civil Rights Act. Very interesting, right? With that being said, with the help of some of the other black leaders, during that time, Lyndon B. Johnson also administered the affirmative action to the blacks. I don't even know why the blacks accepted that, because anything that the blacks wanted and is for free, believe me, they are all for it. And they pushed by the Democrats from the black leaders. And during that time, and we try to figure out how this stuff started, how the Democrats started this civil rights movement. I know during that time, an organization called the NAACP was trying to gain control of the blacks for their personal gain. You know, they live high on the hog, and the blacks live low on the hog, and they kept them there because they gave them free stuff. And during that time, Lyndon B. Johnson also initiated the Immigration Act. He also did that too, which flooded cities with immigrants. He said that it wouldn't flood the cities, but it flooded the cities with immigrants, and it caused Americans to lose their jobs. Okay, this was signed by Lyndon B. Johnson. You know, this white guy that I have up there. He white. But the blacks were so willing to take that idea and give it to the blacks. All right. The civil rights, some of the requirements, that the civil rights had implemented into the black community, some of the requirements, one of the requirements were that you couldn't have a man or a boyfriend or you couldn't be married in the house. And the blacks agreed to do that. Not all, but majority of the blacks, and you know it, majority of the blacks were for that. Now, it's not all. Don't get confused. It's not all. But most of the blacks, it caused them to rely on the government. It prevented the blacks from thinking and taking care of themselves. It prevented them from getting married. The black women, oh man, it's such a mess now. And you can see it during that time when they came in. I'm trying to tell you something. Lyndon B. Johnson came in about 1963, right? It took about 2 years for me to get some shit done. Okay. And what happened? About 1965, that's when the Civil Rights Act happened, right? Boom. What happened? Out of wedlock. Out of wedlock. So back then, when the NAACP was gaining control of the blacks for the personal gain, they used this woman called Rosa Parks. But it was a different woman. The real Parks, is Claudette Colvin. She's the real Rosa Parks. Okay. Now, during that time, the NAACP used Rosa Parks because they couldn't use Claudette because she was born out of she was pregnant and she was having a baby out of wedlock. So back then the blacks didn't believe in that. They wouldn't believe a story coming from some chick that's just out here just getting pregnant and stuff like that. See, back then the blacks had some type of morals and respect for each other. You know, they had some type of class about themselves back then. So that story, they used Rosa Parks because she had, she looked good and she had nice hair and stuff like that. Nice. They wanted to have a great look to entice the people. Okay, so the women back then, they found the glitch. Okay, the women back then, they said, "Damn, you're gonna give out more money if I have children?" They said, "Man, I need another check, so I'll make a baby." But that's like a win-win situation for the woman. I get to have a place to stay, and I can have a check come in, and I don't need nobody to tell me nothing. Or I don't need just to not keep a man in the house. Oh man, that's cool. I'll have him come over, hit me off a little bit. But after that, I'll kick him out. Since the civil rights, black people been still begging. I mean, you have women that's still begging, uh, blaming the white man. The black man wants another person to take care of their kids. They want another person to take care of their kids. About the last 70 years, give or take, about the last 70 years, black people still blaming white people, beating them up in the streets, going to their stores, stealing and robbing in broad daylight. So the question is it the white man's fault that the blacks are losers? Not all, but most. I don't want you to get too wet in your pants. But listen, before the civil rights movement, there were no leaders for blacks. The blacks were taking care of themselves. They treated each other like how they wanted to be treated. When the blacks allowed the civil rights to happen, the blacks turned their lives over to the so-called black leaders. And those black leaders sold the blacks to the Democratic Party. The deal went something like this. If we can lead the blacks, we can give them free stuff. Oh, they'll go for it. They'll go for free stuff. And it's so abnormal for a man to lead another man. That's not normal. That's not manly for a man to lead a man. So the proof that the Democratic Party hates black people is that they lie to them. They pretend it's something called racism. They give blacks free stuff like affirmative action. These black leaders encourage the immorality of the black community. They don't believe the blacks are able to think and do for themselves. So they created a scam for the black community. Whew. We gotta wake up. I mean, we really have to take a look at it. Just because they're black doesn't mean that, hey, I need to follow this guy and listen to him and have him run my household. You know, now you got people like now, Dr. Umar Johnson, who will run your household, will have you thinking, oh, I just need to find a black woman because I'm black. You got black leaders out here, so-called black leaders out here, that are controlling other black men's Johnson. They telling you how to sleep and where to sleep and who to sleep with. Wow, amazing. Well, folks, that's all in a nutshell. Moral of the story is think for yourself and get out of the Democratic Party because they don't care or have any love for the blacks. Thank you very much for tuning in to the JP TV show. Appreciate you.
Tune in to JPTV Believe It or Don't tonight, 9 p.m.
Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to JPTV Believe It or Don't. Amazing content over there.